Chapter 6. A Drone by Any Other Name. The Future of Aviation. The busy bee has no time for sorrow. William Blake, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Every superhero has an origin story, and sometimes that story says more about the present than it does about the past. Back in 1896, Samuel Pierpont Langley was building the first flying machines, called aerodromes, and he successfully launched one from a barge on the Potomac River. You could call this the world's first ever drone because it was uncrewed. It was a scale model of what would be needed to carry people. Sam was an engineer, a mathematician, and a professor of physics and astronomy, and even has something in common with Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn's first job was working to build radio planes during World War II. These aircraft were used by the US Air Force for target practice before heading over to Europe for D-Day. In Australia, we had the GAF Jindovic as our radio-controlled target drone of choice, developed as a result of a bilateral agreement between Australia and the UK. But what can drones really do for us outside of defence? The answer? More and more every day. Drones have evolved as an emerging and exponential technology within an increasing ecosystem of technologies. The drone industry isn't really an industry in its own right. Drones are now spread across all industries. Your first interaction with a drone might have been a nuisance down at the beach, or maybe a toy drone that was delivered by Santa. Every year, the hashtag #DroneCrashmas trends on Twitter. But these days, drones are much more than just plastic toys you can buy on the high street. They are made in many different countries and have many and diverse names, types, sizes and configurations. Some are the size of a fingernail, while others have wingspans of 25 metres. There are drone bees that pollinate plants in greenhouses and high-altitude pseudo-satellites, HAPS, that roam at 60,000 feet. Some might even go so far as to call the International Space Station a part-time drone because it can be controlled remotely when need be. Drones can create, collect, collate and process data in many ways and at any time of the day or night. They can run, walk, crawl, swim, climb and fly. They can move in 4 directions and can be used for reconnaissance and counter-terrorism, swim underwater to map the ocean floor, or hunt and kill crown-of-thorns starfish, self-navigate in the darkest underground mines or in collapsed buildings, and fly across vast spaces searching for people who are lost or for rare species of animals or plants. They can even patrol beaches and detect sharks, setting off shark alarms to get people out of the water and harm's way. Every level of government now uses drones or drone-based data collection. There are businesses leading the charge, regulators responding to industry need, and investors backing some incredibly diverse aspects of the drone ecosystem. Australia is leading much of this, especially as the first country in the world to create regulations for drones within model aircraft legislation back in 2002. Drones do have a terrible name. It makes them sound like mindless zombies, and I just can't get past it. It disappoints me that we haven't come up with something better in the 10 plus years I've been working with them. They could be called so many things, not many of them positive or without acronyms that sound aviation or defence oriented. The PR machine has let down these amazing platform technologies that are saving lives, helping us protect endangered species and changing how we grow food, among other amazing uses. I accept that it is probably too late to change their name and narrative now, so we are stuck with it. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, but I'm still not satisfied. The drone ecosystem. Drones are becoming smarter and faster and carry technology payloads that are shrinking in size. Cameras, microphones, sensors and detectors. The new method of drone deployment is as part of a swarm, and swarming technology is getting better all the time. Swarming, especially multimodal swarming, where a big plane might drop a smaller drone which drops a smaller boat and so on, will be a game changer. Not only will drone swarms take on defence roles in the theatre of war, but we will also be able to use them to map and monitor crops, bushfires and oil spills. Think drone boats launching aerial platforms, and even look for people lost in the wilderness. Think of drone swarms as sheepdog and sheep, where they can swap out roles, or as an ecosystem, like on the African savannah, where the elephants are connected to and working with the hippos, which are in turn working with the antelope. Each has a different role, an ecological niche. It is this type of eco-inspired co-working swarm that is currently at the cutting edge of drones and robotics, and also leading conversations around the ethics of how we operate such autonomous multi-platform technologies using AI. The biggest kryptonite for drones is the battery technology that powers them. Though some of the larger ones have petrol engines, and a few even operate using hydrogen fuel cells or with hybrid engines. The new gargoyles in our cities are potentially on building or rooftop drone charging stations. Dormant drones placed strategically around our cities, just waiting for the call, could be used to get defibrillators or insulin pens to people having a medical emergency, and they are faster at reaching patients than an ambulance. We have all seen ambulances struggle to get through bumper-to-bumper traffic, with some drivers not bothering to move out of their way at all. Imagine if, instead, a drone was on its way to a crash site with medicine, blood, and a live streaming doctor attached. A flying ambulance drone such as this is being developed in the USA. There have been a few startups in recent years in countries such as Japan, New Zealand and the UK that have been paving the way to personalised aerial transport with jetpack-like suits you can wear or step into, or vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL drones that can rescue people and then carry them in a cage-like structure underneath the engine system. There are a number of global businesses leading the charge for uncrewed aerial personal transport drones to become commonplace. Although the technology may not be available to suit-wearing commuters anytime soon, it certainly has wide applications in defence and emergency services today. Would you wear a jetpack or get into a flying taxi? What if it didn't have a pilot on board? Imagine it's you waiting for that medical help. Would you take a flying ambulance if you were in pain and it would get you to the hospital quickly? We all want help when we need it, but with things that fly or are automated, it's never as easy as it should be to get the required systems up and running. The difficulty with uncrewed, remotely piloted or automated aircraft is that they could kill people if something goes wrong, and as always, the law lags behind. It hasn't been fully tested in a court of law as to whose fault such an accident would be. Uncrewed transport is set to be a game changer for delivery and transport though. Ultimately, we know that the app-based taxi and food delivery companies don't actually want human beings in the cars, but at the moment the assurance levels for driverless cars or aircraft just isn't at a place where businesses would be able to access insurance. Volvo has taken the lead on this, saying it will take full responsibility, with some caveats of course, for its driverless vehicles. Though it doesn't have any flying vehicles yet, keep an eye on Toyota, which has invested millions of dollars in flying cars in recent years. And have you ever experienced the traffic in Tokyo? Some time ago, Audi developed a concept car with a drone pack that could be attached to the roof and utilised if you were stuck in traffic. Can you imagine just taking off and flying over all those people stuck there waiting? I think this will be something the police services get to grips with fast, and I'm sure anyone who has been stuck on the M1 between Brisbane and the Gold Coast will follow. The way drones move around our cities will be controlled by something called Remote Traffic Management, RTM. Singapore was the first city to make real headway in this area of airspace management. Think of it like the Marauders map in the Harry Potter books, where you can see where everyone else is and how they are moving. Drone corridors will exist in the airspace, not quite like flying traffic lights, but more like shipping lanes in the ocean, using GPS in 4D, time and 3D space. The capability to identify and track every drone in a city's airspace will help people trust drones more. And when you have trust, you have better assurance of how people will behave. When you have decision quality assurance, then as a business, you can look at insurance policies. Once you can insure your drones and their activities, then you have a business model that you can make flying delivery drones or healthcare drones a viable proposition for operators and investors. There are some great success stories of startups and entrepreneurs making a good go of it with drone tech. And then there have been the abject failures to meet customer expectations. But despite failures from large companies through to small Kickstarters, it is fair to say that the business model innovation in the drone system and industry is not slowing down anytime soon. Drones and Mother Nature. I am really proud of the world-first drone projects I have created, curated and directed. In one such project, long-range reconnaissance research drones made in Australia for weather monitoring 20 years or so ago were used to fly hundreds of kilometres and map offshore islands and marine systems. My initial projects all took place nearly 10 years ago now at the time of writing, but the core long-range turtle monitoring project still remains ahead of its time. And the imagery, oh my gosh, it would have made Sir David Attenborough want to buy me a beer. We were able to capture footage of Mother Nature in action, and most importantly, without her knowing we were there. Because the size of the aircraft and the altitude it was flown at, it didn't enter any ecological windows that could cause a predator-prey reaction from the animals we were observing. A lot of drone-based work causes a huge amount of disruption. Even the seabirds didn't notice us operating overhead. It was like we weren't even there. It is this that any ecologist wants: no sampling bias. It really upsets me when I see people winning drone photography competitions based on endangered species such as eagles interacting with them. This is technically non-predatory predation and will have a negative impact on the animals in time, if not immediately, through fatigue, stress, or even cuts and physical damage, either directly from the drone itself or from hitting something while trying to get away from the drone. In Africa, drones have been used with some success to help protect endangered and protected species, such as rhinoceroses, by providing surveillance of the animals as well as chasing the poachers. Well-funded and organised professional poachers are now able to use drones to find the animals they want over long distances, so rangers are now engaging anti-drone technology to try and take out the hunter drones. In Northern Australia, a project co-funded by Microsoft uses drones to locate feral pig breeding sites in order to inform the professional hunters who go in and take them out. Turtle nesting areas are mapped and then protected using plastic mesh lids that have holes large enough to let the baby turtles out but are strong enough to stop feral pigs from digging up the nests and eating all the eggs. Drones have operated in our oceans for decades, from drogues, which are essentially GPS-capable buoys that are passively floating around on ocean currents, to underwater gliders that can be activated via GPS or sensors to seek certain attributes in the water or map sea floor. Slocum glider drones were used during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico to identify where the oil spill was in the water column, while using onboard processing and special laser sensors to prove the oil was from the leak, not just some old boat engine oil. There are also long-range sailing drones from a company called Sail Drone that are collecting information and sending it live while traversing the Pacific Ocean. It is wonderful that we can log on and see some of these drones in action. They are operating in places that humans might never go to and providing some amazing data sets that are changing the way we understand our oceans. Around the world, the rate of coastal erosion has been on the rise, which means a lot of our coasts are now managed or engineered, and sadly, in some countries, are now more concrete than natural systems. We are using drones and mapping to find new ways to monitor the effects of wave action and the erosion and deposition this causes. From the severely eroded post-storm beaches north of Sydney to the flooded levees of the southern United States, drones provide immediate and high-resolution imagery to assist engineers and coast managers to save houses and roads from being lost to the sea. They are also able to map immediately after storm events to provide information to insurance companies and planning authorities so the right post-event responses can be triggered. Consider what using drone-based, highly accurate mapping data could mean for the Pacific Islands as they face climate change head-on in the form of rising sea levels, increased strength and frequency of damaging storms, and environmental damage and impacts on natural resources. Small startup businesses are using drones to provide location and mapping-based spatial data processes to do everything from counting coconuts that are harvested for export through to counting the roofs lost in storms to trigger relief payments. International aid bodies have provided money for skills and equipment to be provided to local geospatial teams to build local capabilities. After Cyclone Pam bashed Vanuatu, relief flights were taking off from Australia without knowing if the runway was operational at Port Vila because a proper survey had not been able to take place. A drone team would have been able to provide information almost immediately via a pre-planned set of drone flights and data management workflows. This potential immediacy or near real-time production of data brings strength in terms of fast answers, but there are risks in an open data culture that you could accidentally share very personal information about people without their permission. This is why metadata protocols and information management plans need to be created, adopted, and enforced. There are no standalone international standards, the closest being the FAIR principles, and here lies another problem of being an early adopter. In the drone world, being a first ever project is commonplace because this technology has accelerated into business models so quickly, but the surrounding technologies and best practice is not quite match fit, and so we adapt to survive. This is not without its problems. An example every Australian will be able to deeply understand is the need for fast and accurate information for bushfire management and defence. In the Australian summer of 2019 to 2020, bushfires ravaged huge swathes of the country. The nationwide mega fires created ferocious storms called pyrocumulonimbus, which then caused lightning, which created further fires. It will take decades or longer for some areas to recover, and some never will, such as the ancient woodlands in Tasmania. Imagine if there had been automated systems installed that could be activated by an AI-based trigger from a thermal camera, be it on a viewing platform tower or on a larger drone, HAPS or satellite. This could have allowed the fire to be extinguished in a matter of minutes. This technology already exists in pieces, and there are likely to be global competitions and innovation exchanges around putting roboticised immediate response technology to use. Australia is working globally and leading the efforts around targeted fire prevention and relief. Key pieces of work to watch are those involving Australia's Minderoo Foundation and XPRIZE in the USA. Drones saving lives. Some people have ingeniously used drones to save lives. Children have been found when missing on large properties, and there are numerous case studies of hikers being found and rescued using drones. Self-rescue drones are not yet on the market, but they won't be far off. People have already tried to develop drone systems to help women walk home safely alone at night. Honestly, why aren't women safe to walk home at night already? As well as anti-house theft drones that were trialled in Japan. Urban firefighting drones range from those used by managers of high-rise buildings to detect who might be smoking on their balconies and therefore potentially causing a fire hazard, through to long hose drones that can fly and spray water at the same time. Drones that can spray targeted fire retardant, and even drones that have been designed to rescue people from high-rise buildings. After the tragic Grenfell Tower fire in London in 2017, there have been calls for better use of drones and robotics to aid in rescuing people from burning buildings. At the time, the ladders that the fire service tried to use weren't long enough, and the London Fire Brigade didn't even own a drone. That frustrates me, because we know how much eligible technology is out there. So why isn't it deployed already? Why is there a wall of inertia around innovations that could save lives, particularly when we know that some of these technologies are already widely tested and trialled elsewhere in the world, either commercially or in the defence sector? In Australia, our health and safety legislation is written in a way to oblige people to use new and tried and tested technology when it is fit for purpose and proven. It seems that the more global knowledge sharing is needed. Maybe. Conversations are happening thanks to global events and conferences that take emerging technologies and make them business as usual, such as through one of my companies, World of Drones and Robotics Global. During the pandemic, there were lots of ways in which drones proved useful. There were also many ways in which they could have been deployed, but there was no precedent and therefore no insurance to do so. Some trials were more successful than others, with companies such as Google's Wing running world-first and successful commercial delivery drone operations from Logan in Queensland. In Canada, drones have already been used to transport human organs between hospitals in major cities, and on the other side of the country, community nurses have not had to leave their posts on islands and take half a day and a couple of ferry trips to deliver COVID testing kits for analysis. It's great to see some companies taking the lead on these ethically driven business models in the healthcare sector. The remaining questions of scalability remain, though it's easier to be the sole company on the market, with no one competing or buzzing your drones in contested airspace. Fun with drones. Aside from serious matters such as saving lives in a global pandemic, there are also light-hearted ways that drones are engaging with communities. If you have ever taken a droney, a drone selfie, then you'll know how much fun can be had with drones. You can get decent GPS-stabilised drones for a reasonable price, and it's a top gift to buy that person who has everything. Once upon a time, circa 2018, competitive and professional drone racing was seen as the next big thing, potentially investable and the new, scalable and smarter F1. International leagues were formed that competed with each other, and millions of dollars were spent on sponsorships, promotions and branding. However, promoting gender diversity among drone racers was not seen as a priority. It was totally male-dominated, and now the whole idea of formalised global circuit of drone racing has gone rather quiet. Dead silent, in fact. The social acceptance of racing drones was also damaged when a horrible accident occurred in the UK and a poor little boy lost his eye after a 4-kilogram racing drone belonging to his dad's friend crashed into his face. Whether drone racing makes a comeback after the pandemic remains to be seen, but I am not sure people are rushing back out to it. At large events, especially events such as the Olympics and Paralympics, the Platinum Jubilee of Elizabeth II, and New Year's Eve celebrations, drones with LED lights are becoming the new fireworks. They are seen to be more environmentally sustainable and slightly more creative than traditional fireworks, but they do lack some of the whiz-bang magic. There's a bit of bombastic global rivalry happening between China and the USA when it comes to the largest drone displays. A recent record was 3,281 drones flying simultaneously in Shanghai in March 2021 to celebrate the launch of a luxury car brand into the Chinese market. The Australian film industry has benefited from our world-leading and very conducive drone regulation landscape because allowing filmmakers to fly drones on set has enabled us to compete directly with Hollywood to attract some of the big blockbusters. You can't watch a show or a movie now without seeing some form of drone footage. And when done well, it is really impressive, especially when it involves sweeping landscapes and wilderness. A recent Great Barrier Reef documentary with Sir David Attenborough used cutting-edge Australian drone company XM2, which has since landed work on Star Wars films and other Hollywood projects. This demonstrates that if you can get to the front of the wave of new technologies, then you can help curate the industry and generate your own niche and then exploit it. On the flip side of all this positive drone love is one of the most disturbing stories I've ever heard about drone technology, and it starts with a chap called Bart Jansen. Bart loved his pet cat Orville so much that he wanted to keep him around and have him taxidermied after his death. But he didn't stop there. Bart was a drone enthusiast, and he wanted Orville to have some fun after his death, including flying, and so he turned him into a drone. A dead cat drone. And now he's working on a dead cow drone. I am not sure I can say much more than that. The anti-drones. Every superhero has a nemesis. What would they be without one? The anti-drone drone is a drone designed to take out other drones that are being used in nefarious or dangerous ways. In terms of technical capabilities and venture capital, the anti-drone ecosystem is growing faster than new drones are being created and marketed. It seems risk is better funded than reward. During the 2014 G20 Brisbane Summit, people were banned from carrying a drone on their person via counter-terrorism legislation specifically created for the event. Drones were also banned during the Gold Coast 2018 Commonwealth Games, with police deploying anti-drone technology that looked like massive electromagnetic guns. Some police forces in Europe have trained eagles to take out drones as a counter-terrorism measure. The idea certainly has merit, but there are animal rights issues, because the birds can be injured by the spinning blades of the typically off-the-shelf commercial multi-rotor drone systems. Other police forces use such anti-drone measures as other drones carrying massive nets and traps, drones that knock other drones out of the sky, and even anti-drone radar cannons, though technically it is illegal to interfere with an aircraft, so the anti-drone guns won't be coming in handbag size anytime soon, to my disappointment. And of course, the potentially fake news headlines. We can't have a drone chapter without mentioning an incident just before Christmas in 2018, when the UK's second busiest airport, Gatwick, was shut for days because of a supposed drone incursion into the airport airspace, causing havoc for thousands of people. The alleged drone operators were never found, and no drones were captured. There are hundreds of ways we could talk about drones for good, and yet there are always negative media stories about flying platform technologies that get much better coverage and many more clicks. Get back in the driver's seat. The laws around drones are constantly changing, so it's important you know the rules where you live and when you travel to other countries. Many well-intentioned people have found themselves in serious trouble after being caught operating drones illegally. Flying drones were banned in Tokyo after a protester flew a drone with radioactive sand onto the presidential palace as a protest around the nuclear accident at Fukushima. Journalists have come unstuck in places such as Myanmar and Iran for operating drones. I remember driving over the Kariba Dam between Zambia and Zimbabwe in the late 1990s, and if you even so much as flashed a camera, let alone took a picture of the dam, the security forces would be on you in a heartbeat. No photography allowed has evolved into no drone zones. And you may see these signs in national parks or places of significant cultural significance, as well as defence sites or places of scientific interest. It is also not polite and illegal in some places to live stream pictures of other people and their children to the internet without permission. If in doubt, don't fly, and always fly safely and follow the rules. There is already research and citizen science happening in sharing drone imagery. The best one I know is the Australian scalable drone cloud platform, which allows users to deliver drone imagery right into the hands of researchers via the National Research Infrastructure. It is funded by the Australian federal government and operated by Monash University with a number of collaborators, including the Commonwealth Science and Industrial Research Organisation, CSIRO, and Australian National University.